Hello, and welcome to today's Wellness Webinar. My name is Shane Drosy, and I am the Wellness Coordinator for the National Alliance on Mental Illness in San Diego. I have the privilege of working on a team of inspiring individuals who devote themselves to empowering their community with cutting-edge technology, apps, training classes, and wellness resources. Our project is funded by the County of San Diego Health and Human Services Agency through the Mental Health Services Act. Our goal is the creation and expansion of opportunities for uses of technology and strategies which support culturally competent recovery and resilience. The services are provided to existing consumers and family members of consumers of the behavioral health services system. The project was aligned under the MHSA Capital Facilities and Technological Needs Plan and is called the Consumer and Family Empowerment Technology Project, also known as the NAMI San Diego Tech Cafe. Before I begin today's wellness webinar, I'd like to point out a few housekeeping tips for everybody. You will notice in the upper right-hand corner of your YouTube screen, there is a circle with an eye in it. If you click on that icon, it will allow you the opportunity to engage in a short poll created for this wellness webinar, as well as a link to the NAMI San Diego Tech Cafe website, and the option to donate directly to NAMI San Diego. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to engage with us on social media. On Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, Twitter and Facebook is at NAMI San Diego, and Instagram is at nami.san.diego. For this webinar, there is an important disclosure to discuss with everybody. The views, opinions, and positions expressed by the authors and those providing comments on this wellness webinar are theirs alone and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or positions of the National Alliance on Mental Illness in San Diego, or NAMI San Diego. We make no representations as to accuracy, completeness, timeliness, suitability, or validity of any information presented by individual authors and or commenters on our webinars, and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information, or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. Now that that's out of the way, I'd like to introduce the doctor for today's wellness webinar. Dr. Jennifer Barr, a naturopathic doctor, draws from her unique perspective gained from experience in both conventional and natural medicine, as both a doctor and a patient, to discuss what she has learned to be the most important hallmark of health resilience. In this talk, Dr. Barr shares her perspectives on health and resilience based on both physical and emotional markers, as well as some guidelines on how she achieves this for herself and for her patients. Dr. Jennifer Barr is a licensed naturopathic doctor that specializes in the natural treatment for mental illness and endocrine disorders. Dr. Barr is among the most highly trained doctors in this field. In fact, she is the only doctor to have completed a naturopathic residency focused on the homeopathic treatment of mental illness. Dr. Barr brings a unique perspective to treating all of her patients. She combines excellent clinical skills, targeted lab testing, and compassion rooted in life experiences to her practice, making a visit with her truly a better healthcare experience. Some of the guiding principles of naturopathic medicine include do not harm, the healing power of nature, to identify and treat the cause, to treat the whole person, doctor as teacher, and prevention is best medicine. The therapeutic order for a naturopathic doctor includes 1. Establish conditions for health, which could include diet, health, exercise, sleep, or social well-being. Next would be to stimulate and support self-healing, including homeopathy, hydrotherapy, neurofeedback, or biofeedback. The next option includes correct areas of imbalance. This may mean reintegrating the mind-body connections, such as yoga or meditation, supporting physiological functions, targeting nutrient deficiencies, and the use of adaptogenic herbs. The fourth option would be pathology-centered natural care, which includes eliminating, reducing, or suppressing the pathogen. Next would be pathology-centered pharmaceutical intervention, which is the use of prescription medication. And finally, the last option would be surgery. Now, the therapeutic order will be discussed further by Dr. Barr in the following 2 wellness webinars, and I hope you do enjoy.
First of all, I just have to say how impressed with NAMI San Diego's size and structure I am. I moved here from Santa Cruz. I was really involved with NAMI in Santa Cruz, and everything was 100% volunteer run, like the office was somebody's bedroom. We met in the senior center that would donate their room to us once a month for meetings. But we also had a really tight-knit group because of that, since it was such a small group. I was talking to Dr. Kirk. This is Dr. David Kirk. He's my resident, so he's joining me today. So he made something to help me out here and there. But I was telling him that from what I understood from NAMI before, it used to be called NAMI, because my phone was saying, here's NAMI San Diego, and that the change was like NAMI like whammy to NAMI like mommy, and how everybody actually called the president in Santa Cruz the NAMI mommy, because it was like that type of group. So it's a bit different being down here in San Diego with a much bigger organization, but I'm really excited for all the work that you guys are doing. So I'm going to talk to you guys today in sort of a relatively loose structure. I've got like a PowerPoint to give us some guidelines, but since you guys are here to learn about what naturopathic medicine is and how natural medicine and conventional medicine can really integrate together, I want to be able to answer questions as they come. For the most part, if I start to feel overwhelmed by questions and there's things that are really important to discuss, I'll put a pause on it. But I do want to make sure that I am here to answer your questions, since that's really the point for us being here today, is to help you guys to understand. So I'm going to basically talk about what naturopathic medicine is, and a little bit about how naturopathic medicine and conventional medicine can work together. And then I'll take the time to answer any questions that you guys have too. Okay? So a few of you have already asked me about what ND means. ND stands for naturopathic doctor. Here in California, we are licensed primary care doctors. This is just where I've gone to school, if anybody cares about any of those things. So naturopathic doctor. As I said, we are licensed primary care doctors here in California, in about 20 other states as well. There are some states, many other states that are still working on regulation for naturopathic doctors. One of the reasons that there are only 20 licensed states at this point is because we're still a growing profession, but we are a rapidly growing profession. We've had almost 100% increase in our numbers of doctors here in California in the last 4 years. So we are trained at 4-year postgraduate naturopathic medical schools. We do have one here in San Diego, Bastyr University, California. It's a branch here in San Diego. It's where Dr. Kirk went to school. These schools are very similar to an MD or a DO. They have the same first 2 years, same basic sciences. Some are even taught by MDs or DOs. We do the cadaver labs, we do the dissection, all that sort of thing, biomedical sciences. Where we really start to differ is in the second 2 years, when we're really focusing on integrating natural therapies, which our colleagues who do conventional medicine aren't doing, alongside the pharmaceuticals. So we are trained in pharmaceuticals as well as the natural medicines. The way that I sometimes say it is that we were the integrative doctors before integrative medicine was cool. One thing that people always ask about with us too is that we do actually do comprehensive lab testing. So the same tests that you would get from your medical doctor, we run as well. Plus, a lot of times we'll do some more extensive testing on top of that. So let me tell you a little bit about what naturopathic medicine is. This is going to be a little bit like geeky stuff, but just bear with me, okay? So naturopathic medicine really has philosophy of practice at its roots. And so I'm going to go through the philosophy of practice and our treatment of therapeutic order, which really dictates how our doctors are going to function. So that way you can have some expectation of what you would see in a naturopathic practice. So all of these things on the left are the fancy Latin words, right? The main points are on the right. So the 6 principles for naturopathic medicine are to first do no harm, which is the same for any other medical profession, okay? The next is the healing power of nature. As you guys all know, there's a lot of things that your body can heal from naturally if you do nothing. We are very capable of healing in many, many regards, and that's absolutely true with mental health as well. There's also a lot of things that are used medicinally that are from nature, plants and such. A lot of medications are actually made from plants as the original source. Totally causum is to identify and treat the cause. That is an absolute vitality or vital component of naturopathic medicine. We want to actually know what it is that we're treating and not just masking symptoms. That's one of the main things that we really focus on. Treating the whole person. So I happen to be one of the few naturopathic doctors that is specialized, and so is Dr. Kirk. Dr. Kirk is going through the residency right now to have a psychiatric focus. Most naturopathic doctors practice as primary care. That being said, so even though I have a specialty and a focus, I still treat the whole person. And so when patients come to see me for a specific concern, all of my patients have a mental health diagnosis, but they also have weight issues or hormone dysregulation or gut issues, and we still treat the whole person because everything is connected. Your body and your brain are not separate, they should be treated separately. Doctor is teacher. That's another principle of naturopathic medicine. It's really vital because doctor actually comes from the word docere, which means to teach. It's our job to actually help teach people about their bodies, about how they can actually live well, how medicines work, how, all these different things. And so one of the most important roles I think that we both do in our practice is help to teach our patients how to take the best care of themselves and how to advocate for themselves as well. And then finally, prevention is the best medicine. I think we can all agree with that, right? Okay, so the therapeutic order. I love talking about the therapeutic order because it helps give me a sort of a framework for how we can actually structure our treatment approaches. So the first and foremost thing is to establish the conditions for health. Then stimulate and support the self-healing process, correct areas of imbalance, et cetera, et cetera. You guys can read. I'm going to go through these in a little bit more detail here. So when we establish conditions for health, we're basically doing things like removing things that shouldn't be there and adding things back that should. So, for instance, a lot of things we're going to look at is instituting a healthful regimen, okay? Looking at nutrition, looking at diet, lifestyle. How much exercise are you getting? Are you getting too much? Like, that's one thing that we don't always think about. Like, we are in a more society, right? Sometimes too much exercise actually can cause more problems than it will solve. So, Dr. Kirk, when I taught at Pasteur for a little while, I think you were with me when I would rail against some fads in fitness that I think are actually kind of harmful for people. If you have questions about it later, let me know. I'm not going to put it on recording. Focusing on sleep, focusing on exercise, connectedness, and social well-being. I also include here identifying and removing disturbing factors and avoiding triggers. So these could be things like, if you've got sensitivities to certain foods, which there's blood tests or certain approaches in dietary strategies that you can find out if you have food sensitivities. Looking at genomic medicine, which is a burgeoning field of medicine that really takes a look at your genetic code and then the biochemistry as associated with that genetic code, and then figures out if you have problems clearing certain neurotransmitters, making certain neurotransmitters, processing certain nutrients, making certain nutrients. Vitamin D is something we make in our body. Our genetics can tell us if we make that effectively or not. So stimulating and supporting self-healing. So as I said, we can all agree that you get a cut, your body can actually heal from that cut if you do absolutely nothing, right? So these are the types of therapies that we can use that help stimulate the body to support self-healing. Homeopathy is a type of medicine that Dr. Kirk and I use a lot in our practice because of how effective we found it to be, especially in the mental health community. It uses single substances found in nature that are prescribed based off of people's unique individual symptoms and then stimulates the body to heal very gently. Hydrotherapy uses water in alternating hot and cold or in certain applications to sort of help promote the delivery of nutrients and removal of waste from specific tissues, or helping with circulation overall. Neurofeedback, is anybody familiar with neurofeedback? So neurofeedback is a system where you actually do a qualitative electroencephalogram that then gives you information about whether you're having upregulation or downregulation of excitatory or lower inhibitory brain waves. And then you attach these electrodes to your scalp and your ears, and it gives you feedback whether you're increasing something or decreasing something based off of an external stimulus. So something like listening to music or watching a movie where it cuts out anytime that you're in too high or too low of a state. So it's helping train your brain to actually maintain the brain waves that you're looking for. It's actually pretty cool stuff. Very effective for things like anxiety and ADHD especially. And then biofeedback is helping you take cues from your body that can then help you either recognize a state that you're in or help you change that state. So doing things like focusing on your palm and warming your palm. In many ways, these are ways to, the biofeedback, I equate in many ways with meditation, and ways to have a very specific focus and a very specific thing that lets you see that you can actually change the way your physiology is experiencing something in the moment, which can obviously be really useful if you're dealing with a stressful situation that can be triggering. Okay, the third area is to correct areas of imbalance. This is after we've made sure we've got all the basics we need to live a healthy life. You know, if you're eating McDonald's every day, you're not going to have the nutrients you need, right? You're probably going to have too much inflammation in your body if you're eating McDonald's every day and never eating any vegetables, okay? So we make sure we've gotten everything that you need. You're moving, you're eating well, you're sleeping, you have social engagement. We give you some things to stimulate your body to heal. If that's still not enough, so we try to go from lowest to highest. If it's still not enough, we'll go to look for some specific areas of imbalance. The things that I've included here are reintegrating the mind-body connection. So that's meditation. That can sort of go between 2 and 3. I like to bounce it out because I think that it can really be useful in both areas. Supporting physiological processes, things like nutritional cofactors. These are like the spark plugs for your engine. Things to make your body produce neurotransmitters and hormones appropriately. Looking for specific nutrient deficiencies, especially when it comes to mental health. We're looking for things like vitamin D deficiencies, B vitamin deficiencies. Those are the 2 big ones that really seem to come up. Adaptogenic herbs. These are herbs that can actually help when the body has been under prolonged stress. It helps to restore your body's a natural ability to actually resume that balance. You know, our body wants to get back into homeostasis. Like, that's why we get tired after prolonged periods of stress, to try and recuperate. These herbs can sort of help make that happen a little bit faster. And then support structural integrity. Here I include intestinal hyperpermeability, otherwise known as leaky gut. Have you guys heard of leaky gut before? Okay. So leaky gut can happen when you're not meeting your stage 1, like the diet and lifestyle. Leaky gut oftentimes happens as a result of inflammation. So if you're eating things that are highly processed, high in sugar, cause inflammation, what will happen is you'll get this inflammatory process happening in your gut that then leads to little nicks in your intestinal lining. Your intestinal lining is super, super thin. It's 1 cell thick, okay? You've got these little, like these cells are together like this, and they've got these tight junctions that hold them together. When you have a lot of inflammation, they start to get pulled apart, and all of a sudden, you're getting things into your bloodstream that aren't really what you want there, because your gut isn't protecting it the way that it should be, okay? This can lead to a lot of things, including anxiety, depression, fatigue, eczema, headaches. A lot of chronic conditions can be attributed to leaky gut. We're going to pause here.
That's why you can cut it out now.
So what we'll do is then we'll use some specific strategies between cleaning up the diet, trying to take care of that stage 1, that first level for the therapeutic order, as well as using some therapies that have been shown to actually help repair the gut lining. I put leaky brain with a question mark. There's more and more evidence coming out that when you have leaky gut, that is what they call leaky brain, with permeability of the blood-brain barrier to things that generally are not permeable. So I'm still doing more research on this because I haven't been fully convinced of it yet, but it's out there, so I wanted to make sure, I'm sure you'll hear about it or read about it on Facebook or something like that. I want to make sure I talked about that. So then we do the next step after those first three. So obviously we're restoring conditions for health, we're trying to stimulate the body to heal on its own. If that's not working, we're giving supportive care to try and encourage it to go a little bit faster. If we are still not successful, that's when we do pathology-centered natural care. This is basically trying to suppress symptoms but using natural means instead, okay? So we're focusing on eliminating, reducing, or suppressing the pathology. Some examples here, herbs, St. John's wort. You guys heard of St. John's wort? So that's a medication, or not medication, it's an herb that we'll talk about in a little bit because it basically works just like an SSRI. Okay, so when you use St. John's wort, you're not healing the body, you're just using a natural drug. Chamomile, same sort of thing. It's not fixing what's causing the anxiety or the insomnia, it's just forcing you to calm down, okay? High-dose vitamins I also include in this. When you're giving supportive physiologic doses of nutrients, then you're actually just helping your body and the biochemical processes work on their own. When you're using orthomolecular medicine, you're giving very high doses of nutrients, and it's really forcing biochemistry, and in many ways that's also suppressing symptoms, not truly fixing it, because once you take away that huge force, the symptoms come back. And then sixth on our list is the pathology-centered pharmaceutical intervention. As I said, naturopathic doctors are trained in pharmacology and in the use of conventional medications. We do use them when they're necessary. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself personally here in a minute, but I'll tell you right now, I think that medications save lives. Absolutely, they save lives. Sometimes they are 100% necessary. For some people, they are not necessary for the long run, and we can actually help people to heal so that they're not having the side effects and the follow-on conditions that come from many of these medications that do save their life in the first place, okay? And then finally, surgery. Obviously, we try to avoid surgery altogether with naturopathic medicine, but it is on our therapeutic order because sometimes that's necessary, okay? So is it okay with you guys if I share a little bit about myself? Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about, I'm going to go backwards actually, I'm going to talk about me. And then I'm going to talk about my approach to medicine, because I think that I put those in the backwards order here. So as Heather said, she saw me speak for International Bipolar Foundation about 1.5 years ago. I've spoken for them and written for them several times. And the reason for that is I have the diagnosis of bipolar disorder. And I got into naturopathic medicine, as probably as many of us do who go into the mental health realm, to try and figure out a way to help ourselves, right? I was in my first year of naturopathic medical school, and I thought for sure I was going to work with people to like focus on their diet, maybe use some plants, maybe use some supplements and things like that to try and help maybe reduce the side effects of the medications. I didn't really have a ton of hope that I could get off the medications myself. I've been on lithium, on and off lithium for many, many years. I've taken Seroquel and a couple other antidepressants and things like that, which unfortunately is how I found out that I had bipolar disorder when I was 16. By misdiagnosis and used antidepressant at the time. So it was not until my psychiatrist told me. I happen to be a disabled veteran as well, so I was in the Navy when I was actually diagnosed. So I was at my VA psychiatrist, and generally the VA psychiatrists have been really great, except this one guy who I said, okay, so what do I do if I want to have kids? And he said, well, I don't know if that's the best idea for you. And I said, well, I don't really care what you think about that. What I'm asking is what do I do physically if I want to have kids, because I can't take the lithium and be pregnant. And his answer to me was, well, you could get off the lithium and you could do shock therapy. That was his answer to me. I had never been hospitalized at this point. I should have been probably 3 times, and I managed to talk my way out of it. But I had never been hospitalized. I was successful in medical school. I was successful in my previous career. And this guy was telling me if I wanted to have kids, I'd have to get shock therapy. I said, that doesn't quite make sense to me. And so I decided to try homeopathy, which is the type of medicine that Dr. Kirk and I use primarily in our practice. I'll tell you that homeopathy uses ultra-dilute preparations of single substances found in nature. the scientist in me, my background is in physiology and neurobiology, the scientist in me said, wait, that makes no sense. You're giving these tiny doses of like nothing. How is that going to help anything for people? But my thought was, well, my psychiatrist told me I could take lithium forever, which made me gain weight, destroyed my thyroid, and I cannot have kids if I want to take this forever. Or I can try this other thing, which worst case scenario, it doesn't work. I have these things to go back to, right? Because I've gone on and off lithium enough that I knew that it worked for me when I went back to it. So I gave it a try. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was the most powerful medicine that I have ever used in my life. Before, when I had been suicidal, it would take me weeks to a month to get out of the suicidal state. With a homeopathic remedy, days. Same thing with manic episodes. I had my worst manic episode ever after I had gotten completely off of the medication. I was still having episodes, but I was using the natural therapies to control it. I had my worst manic episode ever. However, I was brought down into an actually calm, steady state where I could sit still, I could focus, and I was back in my right mind. I realized the sky was not cracking and the truth was not being exposed, and I didn't have to keep running or die within about 6 hours, which is unheard of for me before on anything else that I've taken. So I happen to be a very powerful responder to homeopathic medicine. This is not the case for every single one of our patients that we work with. That being said, people who have the diagnosis of bipolar disorder do tend to respond more like I did. So when I had these experiences, I was like, okay, I have to learn how to do this. This has to be part of my practice, because I went into this whole, I pursued naturopathic medicine because of the experiences I had had on medications. I felt awful. I felt like a blank version of myself. I gained a ton of weight. I felt like I couldn't concentrate anymore. I'm a pretty bright person, and I actually failed a class the semester I started in lithium. And I had to retake it. It was when I was in college. So between that and the side effects that I saw for other people, and when I would go to see my psychiatrist and I would talk to him about what I was feeling, and the answer, unfortunately for me, before I got into the VA system, was always, we just need to change your meds. And even in the VA, a few times, with my new doctor down here has been really supportive. I'll go in and I'll say, my life, I'm struggling a little bit right now because I've got this and this, I've got stress and all that sort of things going on. And we'll pause again. And not once has my doctor ever asked me about, how am I eating? What am I doing to take care of myself? Am I exercising? He's not. He tries to talk me on the lithium every single time, and he understands where I'm coming from too. So these sorts of things are why I went into naturopathic medicine. And so once I experienced the way that homeopathy worked for me, I figured I had to learn how to do it so I could help others with it as well. So I'm going to go back now, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what my approach to medicine is. So the reason I showed you the therapeutic order is I come at it from a level 1 and level 2 perspective. I go into 3, sometimes 4. Mostly I skip 4, I'll be perfectly honest. So 4 was the natural suppressive treatments. I skip it. I go to pharmaceuticals. If 1, 2, and 3 don't work, give pharmaceuticals. There's more evidence behind them, they're more controlled, we know exactly what we're giving, we know what labs to run, we know all those things. So I tend to skip the natural suppression. I try to heal with diet and lifestyle, homeopathic medicine, and then supportive therapies, and if that doesn't work, we go to medicine. Most of the people who come to see me are already on medication, and they're hoping to either reduce or eliminate their medication. That being, like, with the exception of the younger kids, I see a lot of kids in my practice, actually, and that's usually people who are trying to avoid medication in the first place. So I've got one or the other. There's not a whole lot of, middle ground. So we do use homeopathy as the mainstay of our treatment, and we use diet and lifestyle to help support anything that homeopathy can't do, which is basically give you the nutrients that your body needs, okay? All right, so that's enough about me and why I do this and how I practice. I want to talk to you guys about what I'm sure you really want to know about, which is how can you actually integrate these things, right?
Stay tuned for the conclusion of this behavioral health and naturopathic medicine wellness webinar.